and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan and it's time for our Game Week 14 episode of Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid, guys. So yeah, guys, we're going to talk about some transfers today, some recommendations in, out, and some recommendations that you don't do as well. So make sure you drop a like if you enjoy this one. Do subscribe if you're new around here. Let's get cracking. Alright, so buys are players you probably don't have but should consider bringing in. Sells are players you probably have but should consider removing. Keeps are players you might be thinking about removing and I think you should keep them. And avoids are players that are pretty hyped up right now but I think they are potential traps that should be avoided. Let's have a look first of all how we got on in Game Week 13. Alright, so mixed results in Game Week 13, and I think I know why. It's because I released the video quite early on in the week. It was obviously a Tuesday where I do these buy, sell, keep, avoid videos, and actually, by the end of the week, we had a lot of injury news that changed things. So, for example, Bowen in the buy section, obviously, we found out later in the week that actually it was very unlikely he was going to be able to start, which obviously I wouldn't have recommended him as a buy if we knew about his injury status. We've got players like Ferguson, who I didn't think was going to be available, but actually he was available, and he played, and he scored as well. But outside of those kind of injury problems, I think mostly it was a pretty good week. Like Ben White was another injury issue that we didn't find out about until later in the week. It was mostly okay. Like Johnston, I regret as a buy. I don't think he was a buy maybe after all, and I do want to correct that in today's video, so apologies for that one. But in general, I think we did okay. I actually think we did okay, all things considered. But I think it is a reminder that these buy, sell, keep, avoid videos, because they do come out on Tuesdays, it's not a final thing, right? It's more of a, you know, a good idea to try and get some ideas for the start of the week. What kind of players would we be looking to bring in? You guys know that I don't make my transfers usually until Thursday, Friday, but more often than not on Saturday morning. So things do change throughout the week, but it's still a very good idea to get an idea of what kind of players you are going to be targeting in and out earlier on in the week. So yeah, just a reminder, guys, don't go for the early transfers, but it doesn't mean we can't get some nice ideas in these buy, sell, keep, avoid videos. So let's try and get some nice ideas once again for Game Week 14. So, starting off with some buys, and it's an Arsenal duo in the defensive positions. Yes, Arsenal seem to be the only reliable team right now when you're looking for those clean sheets. So, we do want to be going for some nailed-on Arsenal defenders who, particularly over the next 2 game weeks, have got a very, very high chance of getting back-to-back clean sheets. Can definitely see that happening. Raya, not concerned about rotation with him at all. I think he probably plays every game for the rest of the season for Arsenal, other than that other fixture they have to play against Brentford, which is way in the future. You don't need to worry about that one too much. So yeah, Raya just seems like the best goalkeeper to have in FPL right now. Nice and cheap at 4.9 million. Quite a cheap way of actually getting into that Arsenal defense and starting to try and pick up some of those clean sheet points. We've got Saliba here as well. I think we all know that he is the best defender in FPL right now. 5.5 million, pretty expensive, but I think worth the money to get those clean sheets. And also, you're going to get some bonus points with Saliba as well. He does quite well for bonus as well. Shouts out to Gabriel as well. You can pick him up for fairly cheap, 4.9 million. So I still think Gabriel is definitely worth going for still if you think that you are happy with taking the minor risk of rotation. I don't think there's going to be too much risk there, to be honest, but if you are concerned, then spend the extra money on Saliba. But I personally think it's fine to go for Gabriel as well if you want to try and save a little bit of money and you think you can spend that money elsewhere or save it for a future game week. I think that's fine too. But definitely Arsenal defenders, Arsenal goalkeepers, this is where we want to be looking at right now ahead of Game Week 14, without a doubt. Moving into the advanced positions, this week, we know it's Brian and Mbumo week. We certainly do. Yes, for the next 4 game weeks, we've got some really nice fixtures for Mbumo. And despite the fact he blanks in game week 18, I wouldn't worry about that too much. I think just, hold him through that blank. You may even get a nice double game week in game week 20 as well, where hopefully Mbumo is going to be able to play in that one as well. 2 fixtures in 1 week. Always nice, isn't it? So, yeah, Luton up next. We've got Sheffield United in a couple of weeks and Aston Villa at home, which is always a nice opportunity for attacking teams as well. So I like Mbumo. Yeah, he's really unlucky actually not to score against Arsenal. Obviously had a huge chance cleared off the lines. He's on penalties. His underlying numbers are really nice, and he is the centerpiece of everything that Brentford are doing right now. So no doubt about it, Mbumo is the best midfielder to buy right now. As long as you've already got Salah in your team, then Mbumo is kind of the next guy we will be targeting. I will pretty much sell anyone aside from Salah, Son, Saka, and maybe Palmer as well. Those would be the players I wouldn't sell for Mbumo. Outside of that, you know, even like a Gordon. I know people were buying Gordon a lot this week. I would actually consider selling Gordon for an Mbumo this week. I would take your points that you got last week and just run and go for Mbumo instead. Obviously, if you've got Diaby or if Bowen is injured, then maybe you can move them to Mbumo as well. But, you know, maybe wait for injury news on Bowen before you pull the trigger on that one. But yeah, there's basically very few midfielders I wouldn't move to Mbumo. I think he is that important. And for a forward, Isak. Yeah, Isak is my guy. Honestly, he's a player I really, really want in my team. I think this Manchester United at home game is actually a good opportunity. We see how many chances Manchester United do concede. And against a better team like Newcastle, I think Newcastle could do some damage there. Isak is going to be on penalties as well whilst Wilson is out. So he's the only fit striker at Newcastle right now. I expect him to play a lot of games. And we know whenever he's on the pitch, his numbers per 90 are insane. They're incredible. So really, really a nice player to own at the right moments. And I feel like now is a good moment to own a player like Isak. We've got some decent fixtures. We've got a player who's nailed on. We've got a player on penalties. We've got a player who has incredible attacking numbers. Everything is in the right place to buy an Isak right now. He is my favourite forward. And again, if we're talking about players not to sell for Isak, it would pretty much only be Watkins and Darwin Nunez. Any other forwards, Haaland as well, of course, Haaland. Any other forwards apart from those three, I would happily sell for Isak if you've got a forward in your team that you're not really feeling right now. Okay, time for some sells, and like I said, I am going to try and correct last week's Johnston shout. Yeah, I think it's time to go. I'm really, really not impressed by the Crystal Palace defence recently, and they've only really got one good fixture left, and that's Bournemouth. Even West Ham, you expect West Ham to score against them. Bournemouth, you know, I said it's a good fixture, but even then, they've been scoring a couple of goals recently, and Bournemouth do look like they are coming into a little bit of attacking form, at least. So, therefore, is it potentially time to remove those Crystal Palace players completely? It may well be. I know a lot of people would have only bought these players recently, but at the same time, I don't know. Can you really see them keeping clean sheets? Now, Johnston at 4.7 million, I think he is a pretty easy move to Raya if you can do that. I think you are going to benefit from that, particularly when we've got like the likes of Liverpool and Man City coming up in a couple of game weeks. Anyway, that's going to be a rough ride for your Crystal Palace defenders. And also Anderson, of course, 5.2 million. That is really quite expensive for a defender at this point. When you can get a player like Saliba for just 0.3 more, when you can get players like Gabriel for cheaper, Zinchenko for cheaper. You can even get, you know, maybe some Newcastle defenders like Cher, or you can maybe get Pedro Porro after his game against Man City. He's about a similar price there as well. I think you can get a lot more from your money. I think you can get better defenses with better attacking output as well, with more bonus point potential, everything. I think you get everything that you're kind of looking for in a defender. By selling Anderson, because you can get quite a lot of money back if you do sell him. So yes, Crystal Palace are a defence I would like to move away from now. I think Bruno Fernandes is a possible sell as well at this point. Yeah, he's been okay and he's been fairly decent on and off, I guess, during those easier fixtures for Manchester United. But looking forward, you know, we've got Newcastle away, Chelsea, Liverpool away. You know, even Liverpool, they've really improved defensively recently. So these are not good fixtures for Manchester United at all. And I think they are going to struggle a little bit for goals. And even then, like, who is it going to be getting the goals? Is it going to be Garnacho? Is it going to be Rashford? Is it going to be Martial, Højbjerg when he is fit as well? Højlund, should I say, when he's back and available? Or is it going to be Bruno Fernandes? I don't know. It's really difficult. And I think at this point, like, Bruno is just too expensive. It's very easy to just downgrade him to a Mbumo, or if you want to move him to a Saka, I think that's going to be a good move as well. I just can't really see a place for Fernandes at this kind of price at the moment, given the fixtures that are coming up for him and how Manchester United do struggle against those tougher opponents. We've got Nketiah in here as well as a sell. He's probably not going to get too much game time, or certainly not too many starts from here on out. We know that Jesus is back now. We know that for sure. We also know that Trossard is also going to play as a central striker occasionally. Havertz obviously came on and scored in Game Week 13, so that's going to give him a little bit of confidence, maybe moving forward. So where is the place for Nketiah? Well, probably not in our FPL teams right now. I don't think he's going to be guaranteed enough minutes to really benefit from that. So a pretty easy sell for me. Hopefully you can upgrade him to Isak, but if you can't, then maybe there's there's some other cheaper options that you could potentially go for. I mean, some people have spoken about Solanke as a potential option at Bournemouth, for example. Maybe he's going to be the answer to the Nketiah problem. But ideally, I would like to upgrade him to an Isak, or downgrade him completely and bench whoever you've downgraded him to. I think I would give Areola one more week against Crystal Palace. You know, Crystal Palace team that looks like they are going to be missing Eze for this game week, and maybe even missing Eze for quite some time, actually, for a few weeks, really. So, yeah, Areola, I would give him a lot more chance against Crystal Palace, and I'd say the jumping off point is maybe for the Spurs game in game week 15. If not, then maybe you hold him for a little bit longer. But I'm just not totally happy to sell Areola to like a Raya quite yet, but you know, we're getting really close to that. But I would give Areola one more game week to try and get a clean sheet from somewhere, because it does look like they have had some opportunities for some clean sheets. It hasn't happened so far, but I mean, I'm just not sure it's worth a goalkeeper transfer when actually his fixture isn't actually that bad. And I've gone for Trippier in the keep section as well, which is one I was kind of thinking about and mulling over a lot. I wanted to include him in this video because actually I think Trippier could turn things around, to be fair. I think Manchester United is a better fixture than it looks on paper for Newcastle. I think Trippier, looking at his game in game week 13, really kind of unlucky. Obviously, he got that yellow card, which obviously damaged his points potential. But, you know, he hit the woodwork, so almost got a goal there. He could have had an assist in that game as well. And the clean sheet, you know, I mean, on another day, maybe that could have happened as well. So, in general, I don't actually think Trippier is such a bad pick. And looking forward, the fixtures are good, let's be honest. Manchester United, Everton, and then we've got Fulham there as well. After that, the fixtures get even better for Newcastle as well. And they've got decent fixtures all the way until January, really. So he is going to be a nice player to own. And I think he is going to come back and really reward his keepers. Now, the only way I would sell Trippier is if I was desperate to make another move in my team, and selling Trippier was the only way of doing it. So there are going to be a few people where maybe you could sell Trippier, but I would try and avoid selling Trippier if possible. That said, he is a player that I maybe wouldn't buy either, but I certainly wouldn't sell him. But maybe buy, definitely don't sell, unless you have to. I hope that makes sense. Heung-min Son, a lot of people giving up on him after his third blank in a row, and I'm not surprised, really, because a lot of people, they just look at the FPL points when making their FPL decisions. But anyone thinking about selling Son right now, what I would encourage you to do is go and watch the highlights from the Spurs versus Aston Villa game. Go and watch the highlights, come back, and then if you still want to sell Son after that, then fair enough, I'll hold my hands up. But honestly, on another day, that was 20 points for Son. It really was super unlucky for Son. I mean, similar situation in the Chelsea game a couple of weeks ago. That was super unlucky for Son. He came so close a couple of times, offside, and obviously had 2 men sent off for his team, which completely changed the game. So I think it's really harsh to actually be judging Son based on the blanks that he's experienced recently, because I don't think they're a true reflection on actually how good he has been. We know he's probably going to be on penalties as well, so that's pretty good news there. And yeah, his numbers are good. He's still the 3rd highest point scorer in FPL right now. I don't think there's a reason to remove him. I think he actually could do pretty well against Man City. It's a place where he does like to go and score goals in games like that. It kind of does suit him in a way. He is a big game player. And then after that, we've got West Ham at home. That's nice. Newcastle home, another big game. Nottingham Forest. We've got really nice fixtures. We've got game week 18. He plays against Everton at home. That is actually one of the few captain options for game week 18 as well. So he could even be your captain in game week 18. So is he worth keeping and holding just so you have a captain option for game week 18? I think that is another factor that needs to come into play as well, because Spurs fixtures actually not so bad, and Son really unlucky to not get points. I don't think we should judge him on points alone. Look at the performances, look at the player, how well has he actually done. We've got Watkins as well. Speaking of potential game week 18 captains, I think you need to have at least one of these players, because Watkins plays against Sheffield United in game week 18. That's going to be like the kind of best fixture of the season for all attackers, right? So it's definitely a game week I would like to own Watkins. But right now we have Bournemouth, and I think you just hold Watkins for at least the Bournemouth game. If you desperately want to remove him for City, Arsenal, Brentford, trio of games. I completely understand that, but I also think it's fine to hold Watkins through those fixtures as well. He's a really reliable, consistent player who is just going to naturally tick along with points throughout the season. I think he's just a fine player to just own, a set and forget kind of player that you don't need to have to worry about too much with switching him around. Aston Villa are a great attacking side, and they probably will pick up some points, particularly at home. They're probably going to score some goals, even against Man City, even against Arsenal. And who's to say Watkins won't be involved? He is their main guy in attack, right? So yeah, Watkins still a good pick. Certainly would keep him for the Bournemouth game, and I would definitely present an argument to keep him after that as well. All right, so the Manchester United guys are going to be avoids in the defensive positions, certainly. I know a lot of people have looked at Manchester United recently and kind of seen, all right, 3 clean sheets in the last 5. They've been picking up some points, haven't they, these Manchester United defenders? But another situation where if you've already got them, already had them, great, fantastic, take those points. But if you don't have them yet, you haven't bought Manchester United players previously, I think you missed the boat. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think you missed your chance, because coming up, we've got some real toughies. Newcastle away, Chelsea at home, Bournemouth, who, like I said, are scoring more goals at the moment, and then Liverpool. I think Manchester United are going to struggle a little bit against some of these teams, and I don't really see clean sheets coming really in any of the next 4 game weeks, if I'm totally honest. I mean, maybe sneak 1, but that's probably the maximum you're going to get. So I don't think, again, the points that we've seen over the last few game weeks are necessarily reflective of what we're going to see moving forward. Another thing with Dalot is the fact that with these difficult fixtures, could we see Wan-Bissaka come in and play some of these games? I think that's definitely a possibility, using Wan-Bissaka's defensive abilities to try and counteract against the likes of Newcastle, the likes of Liverpool away. You know, that's going to be really handy to have a Wan-Bissaka in there rather than a Dalot. Obviously, Luke Shaw is back, so it's not like Dalot is going to move to the left-hand side of the defence either. So, yeah, just in general, I would be looking to avoid those Manchester United defenders. If you didn't get them previously, I think you missed your chance. And finally, let's just throw in some voids that I don't actually feel that strongly about. To be honest, it seems like most of the attacking transfers that people are making, they are okay in general. There's none I really, really hate. I mean, I would say that I would not be bringing in Douglas Luiz personally. I wouldn't really be moving towards the Aston Villa players necessarily. If you already have a Diaby, a Watkins, a Douglas Luiz in your team already, like I have Watkins and Diaby, for example, they're absolutely fine to keep for this Bournemouth game, but I think they're probably players in general we will be looking to move away from very, very soon, particularly after this game. So the idea of bringing in a Douglas Luiz this week seems a little bit silly, because maybe you get something against Bournemouth, but after that, are you going to get many points really after that against the likes of City and Arsenal and Brentford? I don't know. It's maybe just not the best period to buy an Aston Villa player. Fine to own them. Just, I don't know if I would buy them or not. And João Pedro as well, another player who did really, really well in Game Week 13. A lot of people rushing to buy him, but yeah, it's not for me. Obviously, we know he's super rotation risk. He's only actually started 1 game in his last 5 for Brighton. So that just gives an idea of how few games João Pedro is actually starting. Doesn't really seem worthwhile to me. Obviously, you got a couple of goals last game, but that's not going to happen every single game week. We're going to see a lot of rotation for Brighton. They've got a busy fixture schedule. It's going to be just a team in general to avoid, I think. So just steer clear of Brighton. I think they are potential traps, really, over this really busy kind of December period of football. So, yeah, avoid João Pedro. I just think avoid Brighton in general, to be honest. I would not be touching them, would not be going near them. So there you go. In summary, like I said, let's wait for some injury news. There's loads of midweek games that need to be played of European football, so we're going to get lots of new information over the next few days. I would not be rushing in to make those transfers, and I think the news or what happens in the midweek games is going to help us a lot on how we get Mbeumo, who is probably going to be the main transfer target this week, unless you have a horror forward that you can move to Isak, or, you know, a horror defender that you want to move to an Arsenal defender. But in general, I think, you know, is defense going to be a priority position? Unless you're getting an Arsenal defender, probably not. I probably wouldn't touch them. And, yeah, I just think Mbeumo is going to be the transfer to get this week. So, yeah, unless you're taking a -4, that's probably going to be your only move this week. So, yeah, stay patient. Let's see what's going on with Bowen. Let's see what's going on with some other players before rushing into a decision there. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you did enjoy today's video, make sure you do drop a like, subscribe if you're new around here as well. Check out Fantasy Football Hub, link in the description, and make sure you check out fanprints.uk, my new website where we're selling FPL merch. If you're looking for Secret Santa gifts or anything like that, just a little treat for yourself, then do go check out that website, and I'm sure there'll be something on there for you. A lot of work's gone into it, so I really appreciate your support on that bad boy. But aside from that, guys, check out another video if you want, but we will be back tomorrow for the 100 experts video. Looking forward to the results of that, and I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.